Today's webinar is aimed at providing insight into how to bring your venue's brand identity to life and providing practical marketing strategies tailored for small venues, which usually have quite limited budgets. I'm sure you'll agree. So feel free, as Sarah said, to use the chat throughout or the Q&A function if you have a question that you'd like to pose to Bruce or to us. We'll have time to address questions at the end. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Bruce Bryan. Bruce is a business owner who founded his award-winning marketing firm 15 years ago after a few decades of directing sales departments at television broadcast stations, mostly in the Midwest and then in Virginia, where he currently resides. His company has won 12 Telly Awards, dozens of Addy Awards, and he's currently working with clients in North and South Carolina, Florida, Tennessee, West Virginia, Michigan, Idaho, and of course, Virginia. He has started two nonprofit organizations. The first is the Help Save the Next Girl Foundation. And of course, Roanoke's own The Spot on Kirk, which is a great small venue and one of our grantees. He's the founder of that space. He's excited to always mix two of his passions, great branding and local music. So we hand the floor to him. He's going to share his screen. Take it away, Bruce.
You bet. And Kat, thank you so much. I was wondering if perhaps you could just go with me everywhere and just share that with everyone, because it would make my life a lot easier. I'm like, wow, this guy sounds interesting. So thank you, and for the opportunity. And Kat's right. This is a great intersection of things that I find fascinating. Obviously, branding and marketing is what I do professionally, and I do think I probably have a ridiculous hobby, which is live music, but I am passionate about it. And Kat's right. I've made a lot of mistakes at the Spot on Kirk and had some successes as well. So I feel like I can offer you some professional direction and guidance, as well as some practical direction from the things that I've learned at Spot on Kirk and at my marketing firm. So I am very excited about this. I did count it up. We're active buying media in 17 markets, and that will come into play a little bit later in this conversation. And I also wanted to just share with you that much of what I'm going to share today is foundational information. It's foundational knowledge. So there may be some things that you know already, and there may be some things that you knew at one point, but like a lot of us, you get out of practice or you move on to the next thing and kind of forget some of the basics. So what I hope that you get out of today is some alignment so that all of us are thinking about and approaching branding and marketing from the same direction, as well as a good reminder for some things that you might have strayed from, if I can use that word, and a check-in, as well as some new ideas and new information. A lot is changing in this industry, not just in marketing and branding, but also in music and in running a live music venue. And so the information that we're sharing is constantly being updated, and things are changing. So it's just really important to stay on top of that. So I think before you can really market, you have to brand. And I want to make sure that we start with a basic tenet, and that is, it's really hard to do this. It's a simple thing, but it's hard to do. And that is to make the branding about the user and not about you. If you tonight or this weekend get a chance and you watch television, whatever city that you're in. I've been in a lot of cities and I've watched a lot of television. I did it both as a sales manager at a TV station. Whenever I would travel, I would look at the commercials, and then as an ad agency, I look for things that I like to see, and I look at some of the trends and other things. And I'll tell you what I see is a lot of really bad stuff that's focused on the, let's say, car dealer or the lawyer or whatever it might be. Good branding is focused on the recipient. And I think that when you think about campaigns as a general rule that stand out in your mind, whether it's Just Do It from Nike, it's really not about what Nike does. It's about what Nike provides that allows you, the consumer, to do what it is that you want to do. Or even going back to, and I'm older than probably many of you, but McDonald's now is, I'm loving it, but it was You Deserve a Break Today. And either one is about the recipient. Now, whether you like McDonald's coffee or you like fast food or you're against all that stuff, I think we can acknowledge that McDonald's is an exceptional advertiser. And it's a really, like I said, simple concept. And that's why you're like, why is this guy telling me this? But I'm telling you because it's just like a lot of things in life, the practice of it is where the challenge comes, right? So it's good to remind ourselves of what we're trying to do, and that is to meet your fans, your followers, your attendees where they are. Some of you asked about building credibility and authenticity and doing that with your brand. And I will just say this. The best way to do that is to consistently share your message. And your brand is your message. So consistently communicating what you're about, why you're special, doing it show after show, doing it email after email, doing it in different ways, Facebook post after Facebook post. Those are all things you can do with no extra budget really, but just going about doing the exercise of what it is you're doing as you communicate about your brand. That will do a couple things. It'll reinforce what you're about. It will remind people of why you're special and why they're there, and some of the extra benefits that they're getting by being a part of it. So the difficult part of that is you're going to get tired of sharing that message over and over and over again, way before people that are hearing it have absorbed it. So I'm going to say that again. You're going to get tired of sharing that message in whatever format you share it in, way before people are going to be able to absorb that you've got a message you're sharing. And I see this, just if I can take a quick left turn and share with you what I see from bigger or medium-sized advertisers that I work with in multiple states and multiple industries. Invariably, they want to change their production. And I try to encourage them, hey, about the time you want to change your production of your television or your radio commercial is about the time the viewing or listening public knows you have a commercial. So you're way more tuned into what your message is than the person that's receiving your message, than your ticket buyers or your attendees or your supporters might be. Just want you to keep that in mind. And I camped there a little bit longer because I think it's an important differentiator. So many people get bored with their branding, and branding is not always fun. There's a monotony to it, but that's strength through consistency. And that's how you get brand authenticity. So I hope that helps you. If you go the other way, you're doing it the wrong way. You're going backwards. If you start it with what's the general public think about my music venue, you've got it all wrong. So I'm going to erase that. And this might sound a little bit rudimentary, but where you want to start is with the people most closely associated with your venue. You'll notice this is what's probably called a bullseye, except some retailer went and took it and now it's called a Target. And you know now it is a bag, plastic bag brand, or maybe you're better about that stuff in a market bag that's on top of the bag that carries your goodies home. But anyway, start in the middle. Start with your employees, your volunteers, maybe your board members if you're a nonprofit, your sponsors, your distributors if you get food and beverage from different places. Those are the people that know you. They're in your place weekly, daily, and it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's dozens, or if you look at who they're impacting, hundreds of people that they're in contact with on a regular basis. Make sure that they know what you're about. Share your messaging with them first and make sure it is something that is just natural for them to be able to share. Next, you look at the people that attend shows. Again, maybe your sponsors, some of the underwriters, the ticket buyers, they might come once a month, they might come once a year. Try to get them to come a little more often, obviously, very basic, but be communicating what you're about and why your place is special and what they can expect to experience. Remind them of what they experience when they come. We see this a lot. I'll just tell you briefly. The spot on Kirk is about the size of your living room. It's we say we seat 119 people, and that's because we have 119 chairs. We can get about 130 in our room standing kind of shoulder to shoulder. And there are a lot of times I go there. We do about nearly 100 shows a year. And there are many times I go there and I think, oh, I just don't know, I have the energy. I have a day job and I have family, grandkids, all that stuff. And I'm like, but I need to go. And I'll go. And when I'm there and when the band starts or when things happen, I'm transported. And that is what we both sell and provide. And reminding people of that and how they feel in your particular venue is really important. One of the things we say a lot is this is just an empty room with a really cool brick wall until the band starts playing and the audience starts listening, and then it's transformed. Just last week, we had a heavy metal band and we had a singer-songwriter night the night before. So the venue can change, but you want to communicate that with your ticket buyers. And then beyond that, you want to be talking to the municipalities, to the tourism contacts, to placemakers, to live music advocates and marketers and communicators, and then obviously to the general public. And there are ways to do all those things with no budget, and there are ways to do it with the budget. And you start to move from branding into marketing. But the thing about branding is it's critical you're consistent, and it's critical you know who you are. So know who you are and then share that message relentlessly. And you're going to hear that a lot from me today. So when we're talking about marketing, right? When we're talking about what do we do? Where do we advertise? How do we get the message out? Those kinds of things. I can just tell you this. If you have a plan, even if it's a loosely constructed plan, and this is, late February, so we're roughly not quite 20% through the year. It's not too late to have a plan, but if you have a plan, I would say based on what I've seen around the world, or at least around the US, you're ahead of about 90% of businesses. So don't feel like, hey, I'm a nonprofit and I don't have a plan that makes me different. Really, it probably makes you more like everybody else. But that doesn't mean it's okay. So what I would encourage you is, as soon as the webinar ends, before you check your email, before you check your text messages, take 5 minutes and make a couple notes. Take 5 minutes and think, okay, how can I start? So the answer is start where you are, and just start. So here are a couple things you can do to start. You can gather information. Maybe you can share some of your benchmarks with a few other businesses, either located near you or in your same industry. And by the way, my contact is on here. If I can help you, just, not just from 5 Points, but as the Spot on Kirk, I'm happy to collaborate a little bit and say, well, here's what we do. What are you doing? And I'm not saying it's the right way, how the Spot on Kirk does it, but it's definitely good to get a little bit of data from people around you. Then determine your priorities. Hey, are we trying to get new people in here? Are we trying to get the people that come here to come a little more often? What are some things we can do along those lines? And then establish a preliminary budget. And you're probably thinking, where do I start? Well, I did a quick little survey, and this might be something you might want to drop in the chat, because there's, upwards of a couple dozen different venues here, and you may not be comfortable sharing with this information with everyone, but perhaps you are. But I can say this: in the entertainment industry, which let's loosely say that's what most of you are in, you'll find that 2 to 3% of your gross sales ends up being a good place to start with your marketing budget. If you're not sure where to start there. And if you'd rather do it based on your profit, if you're a for-profit venue, sometimes it's maybe 6 to 8% of your profit would then be invested in marketing and advertising. That gives you a place to start. What I always say is, and many of you probably have 401ks, it's most important you start the 401k. You can start at 1% and then move to 2, then move to 3. Same with your marketing. You can start at 2% or 3%. But I'll also tell you this, we started the Spot on Kirk 9 years ago next week. And it quietly happened, right? I was talking to the board last month, and it quietly happened that we've actually tripled our gross revenue in 9 years. Nobody was expecting it. We still have just as much money going out as coming in. It's not like we're super profitable. We're doing more things, but we're now 3 times the size we were. So if you think about it, if you're committed to a percentage and that percentage continues to grow, your revenue continues to grow, you can keep the percentage the same and you'll be spending more money. Trust me when I say this, most businesses don't have extra money just lying around waiting to be spent. You have to make the commitment to try it, to invest in it, and then to grow it as you're able to grow it. One other thing that we did is about 2 years ago, we do a lot of door deals. We do some guarantees as well, but we started assigning $50 for each show to marketing. And that would be different things like Facebook posts and boosts. And sometimes we'll do bigger marketing projects. Other times we'll do extra posters and extra outreach and things like that. And honestly, in 3 years, I've never had an act fuss about that at all. Everybody's been keen on it. Everybody's been willing to buy into that. So those are just a couple tips that you could look at applying. And again, I just want to tell you it's okay. I'm not saying this is a therapy session, but I will say it is okay if you haven't done that budget yet. You can start right now. It's okay if you've done a budget but you haven't stuck with it. You can start right now and start march forward. You can start marching forward on March. That was really bad. Sorry. But anyway, you can start doing that on Monday. And again, it's not because you're a nonprofit. It's not because you're a small music venue. This is universally what's happening across the board with businesses way bigger than you and similar size as you. So I want to start by talking about some must-dos. These are the things that don't cost you money. They cost you a little bit of time, a little bit of upfront investment of heart, but they're things that you really should be doing. You must be doing. And first of all, list your shows everywhere you can. I'm in Roanoke, Virginia, and we have, I think, 6 calendars. It's ridiculous. If you're in a big city like Philadelphia, I saw there was somebody, I think, in Oklahoma. If you're in a big city, you might have dozens. A lot of them are aggregators. So if you get on a couple of calendars, you'll find that you're on most of them. But I would encourage you to make sure that you're on all the calendars you can be on. Make sure that you have claimed your venue in bands in town, verify the venue, and make sure you do the same with Songkick. I would recommend you share your PR list, which we've started calling, even since I put this together, started calling an MR list. So instead of press release list, or it's now a media release list, because there's so many different media outlets that aren't necessarily printing anything anymore. So the other thing, I didn't even list social media because that's a must do. There are best practices for social media. If you want a free resource, fivepointscreative.com, we have an ebook about best times, best practices, best this, best that, and you're welcome to have that for free. And there's plenty of other places to get it. So whether you have a budget or not, these are the things that you can do. I also find that a local or even regional media list is quite helpful. Here's the thing. You probably are going to have to update that every 6 months. Again, if you're in a larger market, you might not have the turnover that other markets have. But if you're in a mid-sized market or in a smaller town or in a small town in a larger market, you will more likely see turnover and you'll want to keep that fresh. And then finally, I would create a kind of a generic media release that you can just tweak and update and make that available as well. Many of the acts that you're booking have media and booking agents that will support them, so you can allow them to tap into your messaging. I don't think you have to hold it as close to the vest as you might think you need to. So again, it might be an employee that does that for you. It could be a volunteer that's doing that. It could be a contract employee. Frankly, it could be all three. Could be a mix of those to get to that end product. But these are the things you have to do. And if you don't have money, that's okay. It's time. You probably don't have time and money. So you're going to have to make some decisions to commit to this, but they're important big first steps. Okay. So those are the must-dos. Those are the must-dos. Let's talk for a second about some of the should-dos. I mentioned media releases, press releases. Some of you may be ahead of us on this, but whether it's, hey, here's our schedule this month, here's our schedule this season, here's our schedule this week, you want to get that out to as many people as you can. You also want to make sure in the media world, you also want to make sure you're tapping into the user groups and the fan bases. Maybe there's a blues society in your town or a jazz club or people that love comedy and you might be doing live comedy every once in a while. I know I have a friend that has a music venue in Memphis, Tennessee, and there's a songwriters association in Memphis, Tennessee. So there could be one of those in your town as well. And I alluded to it earlier, but think about, and this could be one of the things you do in that first 5 minutes after this webinar ends. Think about the people that have a vested interest in your success. So if you're in a city or a county that gets tax dollars from you, they actually have a vested interest in your success. Most of them have economic development organizations. Every market, I think, in the United States has what's called a DMO, which is the tourism liaison for funding. And they also want to see you succeed. And many times they actually will pay companies to bring journalists into your town. And if they're paying companies to bring journalists into your town, you can get to know them and perhaps invite them to your venue for a show if there's one happening a weekend when they have one of these tour groups. And you'll find that you'll get an article in a Far Off magazine that adds to your credibility. Don't just take it as the article in the Far Off magazine, but take that article, share the link on your website, and build momentum for your venue with your audience. Not only that, but if you take care of those people, then the tourism experts are going to be more likely to invite you on to the next tour when the next group of journalists are in town. And then a lot of times there's in our town there's a Downtown Roanoke Inc. So there might be a Chamber of Commerce, or there might be an association in a neighborhood where you are, and those people want to see you succeed. So tap into the people that want you to do well. And the more you have them doing your bidding, the better shape you'll be in. And you're going to hear this throughout the time we have together as well. You will do better if you have other people telling your story. And it's really important that the fan bases, the people that can, like I could just say at our place, people, I love when people start telling me about the spot because that's when it's become theirs and it's like special to them. And you have those experiences as well. Leverage those, share those, get people to tag you, get people to do the Google reviews and all those basic things that you should be doing that as a reminder, you're like, yeah, I know how to do that. But the reality is very few of us are doing all these things. All right. You see the chalkboard there. We put one of those out for every show. I'm fortunate I have some artists that make fun pictures, but we're on our second chalkboard now, or third, I think it might be, because so many times of erasing and starting over. So again, just some other should do's that will help get you momentum. And last thing on the media outreach, I was just looking at my notes. Sometimes you'll be able to get interviews for your different acts. And sometimes if you have something out of the ordinary, you can offer an exclusive to one of the media outlets, and you'll find they're even more interested in covering something if they know that they're going to be the only ones that are getting it. So just a couple of other should do's. These are things that have a small budget, but can have a big impact for you. Make sure that your social media presence has a personality. So a lot of times we will message and post things ourselves, but we won't go to touring musicians' posts and like them or share other things that are happening in our community. And those are ways to reach people where they are and then bring them into your universe. Work really hard on growing your email list. A couple people asked about SMS messaging. I want to encourage you, if you're not already, pass around a clipboard and go old school and get people to sign up for your email list. Give them a QR code, ask them to sign up for your email list. It's like gold. Now, not everybody's opening those emails, that's for sure. But if you've got a plan to communicate to people, it's a big advantage. And to that end, I also encourage you to start gathering phone numbers because right now it might be a little cost prohibitive to do text messaging as an outreach. It's far more expensive than email marketing or social media, but there might be a great place for it. But my experts are telling me that that pricing will be going down. So start gathering the numbers now so you can be in that game as it does become more affordable. And again, before you spend money on text messaging, I would say work harder to get all that you can out of your email by building the list, making it easy for people to sign up, giving people an advantage, like maybe it's discounts or maybe it's merch or it's early ticket announcements, things like that, and give people a reason to open those. We've gotten a cadence where we're doing that at the spot on a monthly basis. I work with a retailer that does it, I'm sorry, weekly basis. I said weekly. We have a retailer that does it 3 times a week. I at my ad agency do it once a month. So it just, the cadence is very different. It depends on how many shows you have, but there are ways to use text messaging. You might have a more efficient way through your email provider, but the looking around research I did has it about 4.5 to 5.5 cents per SMS message that's going out. So that becomes a bigger investment. And my guess is most of us are trying to get by with the budgets we have. But you can always do contests and giveaways and things like that to try to build your social media following and build your email list. But
Bruce,
again,
Bruce.
I have a quick
yes,
question of like, what are the things that you're doing? Are you saying that you do regular discounts or ticket giveaways? What are the things you found that really work at Spot on Kirk?
yeah, I think so. We've inherited a big list and we've grown it, probably doubled it. I think we're up to 5,000, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it might be 6,000 now. But we do communicate with people. We're not, excuse me, we're not always selling tickets. We're sharing information with people. And I think that helps. We do offer early notification for certain special members of our organization that are donors. For example, we'll give them a heads up. We also have 2 shows a year that they get free tickets to. So we do have classes and levels of people that we'll communicate with. I think the biggest thing, my team gets a little tired of me, but we try to send an email out once a week to make sure that they know what's coming up soon. And one of the things they've done a great job of over the last year is John has started putting every show we have booked out 3, 4 months out into the future, which we didn't used to do, because if people start scrolling, they'll see what's coming up behind that event. And I think that'll does make a big impact.
Thanks, Bruce. One of the questions we had in the chat was about the number of emails. Do you ever have issues with people unsubscribing? Do you
That's a
find that
great
there's a
question.
fine line that you have to march?
Yeah, we do have people that unsubscribe, but it's not that common. It's very uncommon. Usually it's because they left the area or something has changed in their life. But again, we're not messaging every day. And so if you're a music venue that has 5 shows a week, I think now we used to do maybe 1 or 2 a week, and now we probably do 3 a week, 2 or 3 a week. We bundle those together and do one email. I think that's fair and appropriate. So if you abuse the distribution list, I think there can be problems. But if you're reasonable and fair and you're helpful, I think most people are appreciative of it.
Mhm. Awesome, thank you.
Good
And
question.
I did want to go back just for a second while we were talking about budget. We had another question about the suggested breakup of the percent of the marketing that you spend on marketing the business versus marketing individual shows. Do you have a split that you use at the Spot on Kirk or any advice in that regard?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I will say this. We do basic marketing for every single show. But then when we have the ability to market a bigger show or a series, or for example, if we were to maybe get a grant and promote a series, we'll use that money, we'll earmark that to promote the series. But the benefit of that is we're then able to use the relationship we've established with the media outlet, in this case, a radio station, so that during those times when we don't have the additional money, we're able to curry some favor with them and get some additional tickets and exposure and things along those lines. So we do the most basic for every show, but then we will determine if there are certain shows that we want to promote a little bit harder. a little bit higher. And those are based on things like, does it have a broader appeal? Is there something unique about it? Is there something that we can use to generate additional revenue? Or even if it isn't ticket sales for that show, can we get more attention for our venue using that one show? So real quick,
Awesome.
we're in a different situation. I think I told you that we've greatly expanded our budget, but we still are hand to mouth, just like most of you on this webinar. And one of the things that we've charged our venue manager with doing is booking 2 or 3 bigger shows a year where it's a guarantee we're a little bit uncomfortable with and it's a bigger dollar. But what we're doing is, if we can break even on that show, that's great. But now we're getting exposure to a much different and broader audience. So it's a little bit of a loss leader, if I can use that kind of approach.
Awesome. Thank you, Bruce.
You're welcome. So this kind of stuff is a discipline. You have to block time out to do this. And if you never focus and never do these kinds of things, like scheduling out your social media posts, scheduling out your email marketing, making sure that you have posters every month, making sure that you're communicating with the media. If you don't have a discipline to do that, you won't get it done. So you have to block out the time to do it. And there's no shortcut on that. And frankly, it's the same in my professional life. I'm struggling with that same thing, owning an agency almost 16 years now. And I've made myself do a LinkedIn post once a week. I literally have blocked the time out. I don't like to do it. That's a different webinar, but I'm making myself do it. And you have to make yourself do some of these things because you'll get more done if you commit to doing it. So I want to move and just talk a little bit about the TV stations. And in your markets, it might be radio, it could be NPR, it could be small independent stations. But I'll tell you this, they are a lot hungrier than you think for content. 6.5 hours each day is what the average news station is producing in local news. And they're doing it with fewer people on tighter deadlines. And you can become a resource to them. I mentioned my friend in Memphis, South Main Sounds. They do a regular feature on the different TV stations at different times. You may not get in the 6 o'clock news or the 10 o'clock news, depending on your time zone. But most of them have early morning, afternoon, and then guess what? You have content that you can put on your website and on your social media and repurpose. And that will draw more interest, more attention, and more credibility as well. One of the things I'd encourage you to do is kind of match the performer with the genre. If it's an afternoon show, may not be the best place to do a metal. First thing in the morning may not be either. But if you have an artist you think that would make a great impression, don't be afraid to put them out there and become a resource to them. You're very used to telling the story of what your music venue does to a few people. But if you're on one of these shows, you're telling not just thousands, but maybe tens of thousands of people. And guess what? It's word of mouth advertising. They hear it from their friend. Maybe they didn't see the story, but a friend said, "Hey, this person's playing. I think you'd like it." And then they come to your front door and you say, "How did you hear about us?" And what are they going to say? Word of mouth. My friend told me. But it started with that appearance on the local TV station. So get rolling with that. 6.5 hours of music or of news programming at the average station on the average day. These are some of the can-do things that you can do. These are some of the things that you can fold into your ongoing work depending on your budget. We mentioned text messaging. It can be the next level thing that you do. Also, I love when our team messaged, like next month we're going to have Ari Hest in town, and he's been here, I think, 5 other times. Well, we know who's bought tickets. Let's email those people and let them know Ari's coming back. Nefish Mountain, I might have said that wrong. I'm sorry. They're also coming next month. And we've had great response when they've been here. And what we'll do is contact the local synagogue, make sure that they know that they're coming. It's an amazing show and that people will like it. Again, you can communicate regularly with people, but I also think it's important to break from the routine. here are the shows coming up this week. So I encourage my team to every once in a while share the message or the mission, share the mission of what we're about, share some of the board, share stories about some performers that have been there. We're having a documentary made, a PBS show that's going to air on PBS in our region next Wednesday, but the premiere is Thursday night. So we've invited our sponsors, we've invited our volunteers, our donors, our musicians. Hey, come and see this 30-minute basically documentary. So build a personal relationship so they speak for you. And with your marketing, email marketing, radio advertising, anything you do, the key, and this crosses all industries. So this is one of the things I share at the ad agency is be consistent. And I joked about this before, but I'm going to bring it back up. Right now, you'll see H&R Block advertising on TV. Now, you're not going to see them the rest of the year, but during tax season, you're going to see H&R Block. And in another month or so, you're going to start seeing Cadbury, the little, chocolate eggs. You're not going to see them in September, but you're going to see them in, leading up to April. In October, you'll see Reese's. So they're not on year round. They're on when they know it's their time. So if you don't have enough money to take that 2 or 3%, and spread it throughout the year. And this goes to the question you asked earlier, Sarah. It is okay to do a 2-week campaign or to do a 1-month campaign or 2 different 6-week campaigns. So I just want to encourage you also, if you've got people that you get to know, you see them regularly and they're sharing your message, find ways to engage with them, bring them in for a special listener session, bring them in for a question and answer time, let them meet an artist every once in a while, super serve those people, and that will pay off well for you. So the other thing I was going to say is don't be afraid to reach out to the media. And by that, I don't mean the news media, I mean the advertising side. What I found is a little bit of money can go a long way. That if you just invest a little bit of money with them, you'll find a lot of those, whether it's a local radio station in your small town or a regional radio station that is interested in what you're doing, you can build a bridge with those media outlets without having boatloads of money. And I've seen it firsthand. Put a few thousand here, or maybe a little bit more if you're able to get a grant or get some additional funding. You might have an underwriter who loves live music and is also a car dealer. Maybe they'd be willing to give you some of their airtime to promote what you're doing. That does happen. It really does. So these are the kinds of can-do things you can do to be putting yourself ahead. So in a big market, you might have to find a small station. In a small market, you might be able to find a big station. And I just want to take a few minutes to talk about an opportunity that you might have. And when you have unsold seats, you have an opportunity. You have an opportunity to build a bridge with new people that you've been trying to get there. You have an opportunity to thank volunteer, to thank a sponsor, to perhaps introduce your venue to a new sponsor. So if you see ahead of time that there's some shows that aren't quite doing as much as you had thought or had wanted to do, be strategic. Put your team, if you have a team, or you yourself, look 2 weeks out and come up with a plan to get 5 or 10 people, or if you're a bigger venue, maybe more, into your venue with two tickets. And what I've seen with our own venue is people that experience it tend to come back. So you just have to get them in and see what it's like and then watch them come back. And I just want to encourage you with that, because you're busy doing what you routinely do, right? You're busy doing all the things that fill up your to-do list. And whether it's a big company that's looking at their massive budget or a music venue that has no employees or 2 and 3 employees, marketing is the easiest thing, both budget-wise and time-wise, to set to the side, because it is not urgent, but it's really important. And going back to what I'd said before, it is a discipline. And what you'll find is once you start committing that time to loving on these extra special venue members, or once you start committing the time to being diligent with your social media, if you're already doing the social media, to being diligent about following other acts in other cities or looking at what other venues are doing, then you're going to expand and grow. And that's where the power comes.
Bruce, I have
So,
a question on
yes.
the free ticket and the VIP, the membership kind of idea. You know, it speaks, and you're a marketing expert, so I'm sure you know this, that of the perceived value of something. You know, a free ticket. How do you navigate the
Yeah.
way of making it exclusive and valuable rather than, you know, how some people, if it's free, they will like say, well, maybe I'll come, I'll get it, they're free tickets, but then on the day they'll be like, okay, I won't even show up. And there's a lot of no shows even for people who've purchased tickets.
That's right. That's
So,
right.
you know, how would you advise folks to approach it such that it is has this kind of special aura to it, and it's not just kind of a free for all that you're you know throwing stuff out there.
That's a really, really good point. And I think one of the things that happens is it's how we message it to people. It's how we share that, hey, you have an opportunity to be a part of something extra special. And you're right, there are people that buy tickets that don't come. So obviously, if they're given tickets, that becomes even harder. But if you position it, hey, I want to make sure you're invited to this show. I know that you're going to love it. I'll meet you at 10 minutes till outside, or let's get a drink ahead of time. Or if you're not drinking, let's do something else. And I want to personally bring you into this so you can get this experience because I know you're going to love it. That's the kind of thing you can do with a potential sponsor or somebody that's been there a lot. You can just say, you can choose. I don't think you just spread out to everybody. Hey, we're giving away all these tickets, but I think you pick your spots and you speak to specific people, and you might have trusted people that you could talk to that you could say, hey, this particular show, like if we don't get 20 people in here, it's going to look really strange. Would you just, and everybody that's had 100 seat venues had a show where there've been 10 people there. Just, let's all be honest with ourselves. So what can we do at our place? If there's 25 people in the room, it actually feels good because we can set up the room in different ways and it's intimate and it's great. But that means, I think, a personal invitation. And frankly, you may not have time to do that. That's where if you have a board of directors, if you have some key volunteers, if you have some employees, there could be some other people that could share that load a little bit. But let me tell you, and you're right about that, Kat, doing that the day before, not a good idea. But if you look 2 weeks out, 3 weeks out, and you isolate a couple specific shows, then that is a way to do it. And if you can spread it, if you, again, in our place, we have 7 board members. If each one just had one show that they were kind of looking out for, and we haven't done this, but I'm saying if you could do it, it would be a great way to make it a little bit more personal. Now, 9 years in, we've had far fewer of those shows than we used to, but we did used to have them, and it was uncomfortable. But I've also found the musicians that are touring, they're happy to be playing, they're glad they're there, and they've got a good spirit about it. But I think that this idea of a little bit of a special club or a little bit of a VIP club, I know that's the icon that my designer put up there, but a little cheesy. I don't use that, okay? But it's just a bit of a placeholder. But the idea of creating an environment is really what you're about at your venue. So use that same approach to create a more personal experience for those people.
Thank you, Bruce. That was great.
Absolutely. And then just bringing it back around to where we started with the branding, it's really all about storytelling. And so in those ticket requests, it's sharing a story. You're going to love Ari Hest. He's from Manhattan. He was, on an album with Judy Collins. He's been nominated for, a Grammy Award. And it's just a guy and a guitar. And I'm telling, it doesn't matter. It's a story. So figure out what the story is and share that story. But you have to relentlessly share that story. And you have to do it in a way that's authentic, because a lot of people are asking about brand authenticity. And the way to do that is to meet people with where they are with your story. And what I've seen happen time and again is we assume, when we've told this story before, people are tired of hearing it. But what happens over and over and over again is about the time you're tired of telling that story, just like the client who's tired of seeing their TV commercial run, is about the time the audience starts to embrace the story, right? And what's so great and what's so fun is when they're sharing that story for you. And that's when again, that's when you arrive. Some people said, how do you know when to rebrand? How do you know when to change your messaging. And I'm just going to say, I think that you can maintain the core messaging and maybe tweak and change and adjust things, personalize things a little bit as you go. But I think instead it's best to personalize and expand it, to maybe tweak it and enhance it, but stick with the message. Relentlessly share that message. And I'm not talking about for months, I'm talking about for years. So I think it was in the bio. Before I started the Spot on Kirk, I started a music festival in downtown Roanoke called Down by Downtown. I know, a little bit like South by Southwest, but and if you look really small in the branding, I don't know if you can see my cursor behind the spot, there's a DXDT, and the spot was originally started as Down by Downtown. It was the same group of board members, and nobody knew about Down by Downtown. But now in its 15th year, people know about it. It just takes time, y'all. And I said y'all, I'm in Virginia now. So if you're in Oklahoma, sorry, but it takes time, and most of us don't have the patience to stick with it. And I'm just going to tell you, it's okay. Don't be discouraged. Stick with it. And I know you're going to think, well, this guy's not telling me anything I don't know. But sometimes you need to be reminded of things you already know, whether you want to be or not. So relentlessly share that story. And then, like I said, the way to amplify it is get other people to share your message. So when other people are sharing your message to bring it back full circle, that's when you're branding, because that's what the branding is. So it doesn't happen magically. It happens over time, happens with advertising, it happens with marketing, it happens with consistency. And that's where the encouragement is, okay, y'all, is don't quit, stick with it, be consistent. If you have money to advertise once a year, try to advertise the same time once a year. If you can send out emails once a week, do it once a week. If you can't do it once a week, do it once a month. Whatever you can do, commit to doing it consistently. And then you'll be branding and you'll be putting your venues, which I'm coming into this place in Roanoke, Virginia, where we're on the cusp of being an institution. I don't know when you become an institution, but I feel like 10 years, we're starting to be on the map, right? So some of you have probably been around a lot longer than that, and you're already institutions. But guess what? If your town's like all these other towns, people are moving in and out all the time. So you have to relentlessly share that message. And I think I've relentlessly shared that over and over again. So
Awesome.